I'm Dr. Akhil Shahani. I'm the Managing Director of the Shahani Group. Well, if you count from my great-grandfather's time, the Shahani Group's been in education for the last 100 years, right from the days in prior to partition. We're actually on the board of 24 iconic colleges here in Bombay, but I actually personally run the private division of the Shahani Group, which runs a franchise group of colleges under the brand name Shahani. I have an online education platform called Ask Careers. I have a corporate training firm called Ask Talent Services, and also a student counseling division as well. On top of that, from the non-profit side, we have a foundation that trains low-income students to get jobs in the white-collar world, and we also have an incubator to help startup social entrepreneurs scale up their businesses. So that's the very diversified, very, very unstructured way of describing Shahani Group. Well, the way to look at it is something very similar to what we look at social entrepreneurs, right? So the thing is, profit is important, but not the key driver of your business, right? So the thing is that ultimately, if you want to come up with a high quality product or service for your students, that means that you have to pay your faculty well, you have to make sure they have good infrastructure, you have to make sure that they are able to actually have good connections with industry and technology. That requires a cost. There's no discount on the cost. So what we believe is that if you are able to cover your cost, plus maybe 15% upside on making sure that at least your reinvestment can happen and you can grow the organization, I think that's a good enough thing. So you don't profit here, but you make a decent enough profit to make sure that you provide good salaries to your people and make sure the best experience for your students. So yeah, it's a balance, it's a constant tightrope, but we try to manage. In fact, this is kind of a passion thing for me. So my doctorate, by the way, is in the area of employability. And what we determined is that what makes someone more employable is developing their softer skills in terms of things like communication, critical thinking, collaboration, professionalism, proactiveness, along with technical skills and things which are useful in the office. So that means that what we did essentially, we said, let's move away from the old education model of exams, assignments, and just testing their knowledge. And let's focus on developing their personalities while we are educating them. That means a lot of experiential learning, a lot of understanding what they want, what their career aspirations are, a lot of psychometric testing, and a lot of other initiatives that make them more employable. Because of that, because we're able to make them employable over the long term, because we're developing their personalities, it allows them to have better careers over the long term. So we don't just train them for the first job, but over their long-term career. So when I look at what innovations we've done, honestly, every few months there's a new innovation. So obviously, as AIs come in, we'll be rolling out AI tools. We've also got these kids very proficient on CRM tools like Salesforce, financial modeling on Excel, using the sort of office software that people want. We also promote them to do public speaking. We make sure that they actually are able to think critically by having a lot of complex discussions. So the idea is that combining behavioral science and technology and a bit of data analytics as well, we are able to make these kids more employable. So it's not like a one-shot solution. There's a constant upgrade. So it'll be like Kaizen to that extent. So yeah, we're constantly innovating, and I've got a great team that is quite passionate about innovating on education and making kids get real benefits. So, well, AI, of course, is something that has started entering the education industry like every other industry. In fact, you hear horror stories of, not horror stories, but actually a lot of stories about teachers giving assignments to students, and the students use ChatGPT to actually write the assignments, and the teacher takes the assignment, and the teacher says, look, I don't have time to read the assignment, I will use ChatGPT to assess the assignment. So it's an AI written assignment, and the AI is assessing the assignment, and no knowledge goes into the student's head or out of the student's head, right? So obviously we realize is that the way you assess a student has to change. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure that will the student be employable in the real world? That means that how well they think on their feet, how well they actually be able to absorb knowledge in their minds and actually convey it to others is going to be more critical than the actual research that they do. So we tell the student, okay, look, use ChatGPT, use AI, use what you want to actually do your study and your research. However, we will actually, when you come to class, we will actually give you a bunch of problems to solve, and you will have to solve them live without the help of ChatGPT. Also, we'll be having vivas where you verbally answer questions. So the idea is we get a sense of how much knowledge you actually have in your mind and how well you can convey it to others. And we will help you develop that. That said, we also are making sure that our kids are adept at using AI tools, because the thing is that knowing ChatGPT, knowing NotebookLM for research, knowing even things like, let's say, Suno for creating music and other things, officers are going to ask them to know this stuff. So they better go in with those skill sets beforehand, right? So using AI tools for their work, using AI tools for their academic work is something that we highly encourage in our students and also our faculty. I think the way to look at it would be to say that there will always be constant movement in technology, because we're talking about AI disrupting the world, but don't forget the internet disrupted education in 1990s, right? The smartphone also disrupted education 15 years ago. So the point is that there always will be new initiatives, new technologies that will disrupt education. Us as academics have to make sure that we help our students adapt to the technology and make them more effective in using it, because that's what's needed in the job. Actually quite interesting, because in fact we got a great example of human touch versus tech post-COVID, right? So like all the tech companies, as you know, like all these guys, like they say, okay, now that schools are closed, kids will start looking at tuitions on Byju's and online apps, and then the thing is that they will actually build up their education through that. And they thought that, okay, after schools open up, kids will be so used to online education that they will not go back to school. Obviously, we saw that not happening. People said we want face-to-face classes. We actually want to make the effort to go to school or go to the tuition classes. We don't want the tuition classes to come to us on the app. So obviously, people want this face-to-face. I mean, we're having this face-to-face interview right now. The engagement is much better than if you just send me a bunch of listed questions and I just sort of responded by text, right? So the thing is that means that even the sort of faculty that we have, it's not so much we want great experts to actually teach stuff. I mean, the idea of having an expert who is cold to the student and actually just gives gyan, it's not there anymore. Developing the personality of the faculty, allowing them to become mentors and actually engage with the students is much more important. That means two things. One is that developing the faculty's personality themselves to be more engaging, giving them also permission to be more engaging and say, look, actually do make an effort to sort of build up the weak students versus just saying, okay, I'll just assess you and if you're weak, you failed, too bad. The third thing I think is very important in colleges and schools is that put less pressure of admin on them. Because the thing is that a lot of the time goes in, let's say, setting exam papers, correcting exam papers, doing all these basic things, which can now be automated by technology. So if technology can reduce their admin work, they have more leisure time to actually become good mentors to the kids. So I think that is something that will never change, and hopefully that should be something that makes us come up with employable and successful graduates over the long term. Well, unfortunately, in education, you can't have the luxury of saying move fast and break things, right? Because you got a kid's career in your hands. So what we typically do is that whenever the model is basically that as we have our education going on, right, we introduce a new innovation and we try it in a limited pilot phase and we see how the results are. If we believe that the results are good, then we roll it out a larger phase. But of course, we don't suddenly say, okay, let's say we got a 2-year MBA. I'm not going to suddenly totally revamp the MBA every year, right? I'm going to keep on making these minor changes as it grows, and we will test some initiatives work and some initiatives don't work as well. But I think the key thing is just the need to keep on innovating and accepting the fact that mistakes could be made, but you sort of pivot from those mistakes, like any learning organization essentially. Say that any consumer-facing organization has the same problem. It's not just education, it's airlines, it's food, everything. So I think, look at this way, right? What has really worked for us is two major things. One is that we try to do our best for the students, and more importantly, we actually are very transparent about the data. To give you an example, one of the key things that happens is very often like a student may be studying in a course, right? Now the student does not get a good job, right? And the student tells the parent, hey, I didn't get a good job, it's basically the fault of my teachers because they didn't prepare me well enough. So what we did at the beginning, we said, okay, let's make sure that we have a lot of transparency in the system. That means that we are able to track the students' attendance, the students' performance on the quizzes, the students' actually interaction, how proactive they are day to day. So when a parent comes and said, hey, how come my son Sunil didn't get a job where Sunita got a great job? So I say, look, this is your son Sunil's behavior during the program. He didn't show up for half the classes, he gave his assignments late, he didn't really perform well. And Sunita has performed very well. So therefore, Sunita got the sort of job that she deserves, and Sunil unfortunately got the sort of job that he deserves. That said, we are happy to work with Sunil to actually upgrade his skills if he's willing to put in the work. So we remember one thing is that as the educator and the parent, we want what's best for the kid. Right? So therefore, if we're able to give the parent a lot of data as to how their kid is performing, the parent themselves will proactively try to get the kid to do well. So just a quick anecdote. As in one of our non-profit areas, there was a son of a rickshawala, and we taught him a lot about banking and got him a job at Standard Chartered. But he said, "I don't want the job." I said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "High-paying job." He said, "No, because the job is too far away from where I live." So we immediately called his dad and said, "Look, we have got a great job in Stanchart, and your son doesn't want to take the job because it's 1.5 hours away." So the father actually hit the son on the head and said, "Don't be stupid and take the job because you're not going to be another rickshawala," right? Interestingly, the son took the job, and today he's actually working in Stanchart in London. So, but the thing is that you need to get the parents involved, because at the end of the day, if you're transparent and you are working for the best of the kid, the reputation manages itself. Well, unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of looking at only midterm or only long-term, only short-term, like each of these affect, right? So let me give you an example of NEP 2020, right? And this will give you a sense of what happens in the education space. So NEP 2020 basically was an initiative by the central government to give guidelines to education institutions of how to make their kids perform better and better, in jobs or in life. I mean, this is for colleges and even for schools. That required developing skills and a lot of other critical thinking, a lot of other proactiveness in the kids, more than just mugging and exam. Now, in education is what is called a state subject. So the government can only give guidelines. Each state has to create the rules to implement it in their state. So for example, what would happen in Maharashtra and what would happen in Bihar may be very different, right? Because it's up to the state government to decide. Also, the state government can not really mandate the rules as well. They have to say, okay, the local boards, the ICSE board, the CBSE board has to mandate the rule for their schools, the HSLC board. So the thing is that each local regulatory body has to interpret the rules in their own way. Now, what happens for a lot of schools and colleges is that they themselves don't really get a step-by-step process to implement NEP. They've got the guidelines, they've got what they should be doing, but there's no standard process to actually follow them, right? So that allows a lot of players in the edtech space and providers to schools and colleges to say, look, we will help you with skilling courses, we will help you with sports, we'll help you with this. So they become additional vendors to the schools and colleges to supplement what they do to align with NEP 2020. So that means that from our case is that, so even though we run our colleges, Shahani, we also have partnered with some tier 2 colleges to provide skilling courses in their colleges, right? For example, so we said is based on NEP 2020, even though you guys don't have the guidelines, but you need to definitely upgrade the skills of your students to also get highly ranked with the NAC, which is the national, which actually ranks colleges. So we said, look, here's a quick and easy solution. You just have to offer these courses to the students. We will take share the revenue from you, and then college gets extra revenue, and secondly, we are able to train the students very well. So the idea is that has worked for us for NEP 2020, but then now the government's allowing foreign universities to start coming in, right? Now the question is that, well, how's that going to affect our performance, because we'll have a lot of foreign degrees competing against us. So honestly, every year there's something new, and we have to be agile and flexible enough to adapt to things as they go along. But one good thing about the education industry, good or bad, is that things don't happen overnight. It's not like the technology industry where there could be a new technology and suddenly huge areas of the industry sort of change. Education takes a long time to change, right? I mean, we still have, after 200 years, still the classic teach, the classroom space with a whiteboard and people teaching that way. That that's not changed much of the last few years.